Sunday, everyone. Come on in and let's get the chat going. So let's test the chat. Tell me, what did you do this weekend? What's one thing you did this weekend? I want to hear it. Throw it in the chat. I kind of missed going live this weekend. I thought I might need a little break, on Saturday and Sunday, but I realized that this totally fills my cup each day. So I'm so excited to be doing this challenge. So, let me know, what'd you do this weekend? I played some tennis. Let's see. Lauren did some yoga. This is funny. The guy whose studio I'm renting, I was having some audio issues, which is why we were a couple minutes late, and he is now tuned in and said, "Sounds good." So thank you, Joe Bunn. Appreciate you. All right. Watched football. Go Bucks. Watched too much football. My husband was super excited about the Packers. My prompts in my mission statement, some creating, cooking, knitting, comfort activities for sure. Virtual golf. That is interesting. Tell me a little bit about that. Finished a few books. Wow, a few books. I'm lucky if I finish one book. Mostly just mom and hey, Ashton. Ashton's going to be our speaker, I think, on Wednesday. Isn't that right, Ashton? Can't wait. Watch Bridgerton. Okay, unpopular opinion. I couldn't get into it. So you guys can tell me your opinions about Bridgerton, but for some reason, it was just not for me. Made some chocolate muffins. Ooh, that sounds good. Made yogurt in my Instapot. I am now obsessed with my Instapot. I know there's a bunch of memes about Instapots and air fryers and how you can't stop talking about them. Now I understand. Go Pack Go. Awesome. Okay, keep telling me what you did this weekend. We're going to go ahead and jump right in because I literally want to leave as much time as possible for our speaker today. Okay, someone's with me, couldn't get into it, total pass, but Haley says give it another try. We'll see. Okay, so a few things that I want to get into before we get started with Antonio. Just kind of going in on the comments and going into the Facebook page, there's a few of you that are really gripping this mission statement, which you guys were working on this weekend. And I just want to remind everyone, there is no right or wrong answers in this challenge, only exploration. Let me say that again. There are no right or wrong answers in this challenge, only exploration. So if you are gripping this mission statement so tight and feeling like it has to be set in stone, loosen that grip a little bit. It's going to be fluid, dynamic, ever changing. Right now, you're just kind of picking that North Star. So that's the cool part about journaling, is that you can always go back and edit. You can create new posts. It's all about exploration, no right or wrong answers. If you're like, I don't know what I want my life's mission to be, you know what? Neither do I, but I just pick something every now and again, focus on that, see how it feels, and then adjust and go forward. So also a reminder that you can now hit view previous prompts. So if you're joining late or you missed any prompts, you can go ahead and log into Bright Pages and hit view previous prompts. And I'm just going to show you guys how to do that really quick. All right. And here we go. Okay, so in your Bright Pages app, you're going to have your daily prompt right here. You'll show what day you're on. And then you'll hit this button, View Previous Prompts. And then any ones that you haven't responded to, you can hit Respond Now and do that. So that makes it super easy for you to get caught up if you're joining late or if life gets in the way. And this shows that this is the pathway that we're on. So we're on that 21-day challenge pathway. And then I know we already hit our cap of 500 signups for the annual membership. Hopefully we'll be able to open up some more this week. But when you do join, you can switch pathways after this challenge and you can explore all the pathways that we have. So that is how you access previous prompts. All right. Someone said they got up on their journal prompt, garden, yoga. Also notice the export button. Yep, we have an export button. So whenever you're done or you want to export any of your entries, you can do that as well. We are constantly working on Bright Pages. Okay, so today's prompt on Bright Pages is going to start with your childhood story. This is going to be a fun week. Last week was a little bit more introspective, and this week is going to be more about remembering some of the stories that have shaped us. I know for me, sometimes when I'm writing, I don't even realize a story that impacted me in my life until I start writing it. And so this week, there's going to be different themes of different stories from our past that then we're going to string together on Friday and write our About Me page. So childhood story is always a fun one. But so I know for me, one of the stories of my childhood that I loved was remembering when eBay came out and I sold all of my American Girl dolls on eBay and accidentally sold all of my sister's American Girl dolls on eBay and got my operation got shut down. But that was the first time I realized that, like, hey, maybe I like entrepreneurship. I like seeing what's available to me and finding out what people need and seeing how I can fill in the blanks. So sometimes the things and the people that we wanted to be as children, there's parallels to what we're doing today. So let me know in the comments, what did you want to be when you grew up? And are there any parallels to what you're doing today? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my good friend, Antonio. And hello, Antonio.
Hey, happy Monday. What's good from Los Angeles?
You just have a really, just relaxed week ahead of you, don't you?
I have a
Nothing big.
really nothing big. Well, first, let's be clear. Isn't it great that there's not like a pandemic taking place right now? And isn't it just great that our democracy is working seamlessly as our forefathers planned? Yeah, I have a book coming out tomorrow. Stop
What's
living
up?
on autopilot. And can I just say briefly, Jess, it can be a stressful week. You and I have texted about this. One thing that has helped me relieve the stress and the anxiety and all the external stuff is actually writing down words, journaling, getting all the crazy thoughts out of my head.
So, what was the writing process like for you writing Stop Living on Autopilot? Did you enjoy it? Was it like pulling teeth? What was it like?
It was like working a shift. I think a lot of people think when they write a book, it's going to be like, Xanadu, and there's going to be like toucans flying around in the backyard, and there's going to be this perfect like light streaming in. I had
Yeah.
this vision of writing the book like it's some writer's retreat or some colony, but I'm married. I have 4-year-old toddler twins. That wasn't going to happen. So I ended up writing this book in the midst of real life, in the midst of traveling and speaking. I'd go to libraries at UCLA's campus. I'd get up early before my kids got up. Periodically, I would do a weekend stay at a hotel here in Los Angeles just to get as much done as possible. But I am those people that I write in shifts. So a lot of people, I put timers on. Like I'll set a
Yeah.
timer for 45 minutes. I'll write for 45, stop, take 15-minute break and write again. But it wasn't pulling teeth. It was a shift, a
Mhm.
fun shift.
Well, and one of the things that I've loved watching about your journey is how open you've been about being, a Black self-help writer, in this industry. And you've been, where did you get that article? Was it Publishers Weekly?
Publishers Weekly, yeah,
Yeah.
self-help, personal development books are my jam. If you look at my bookshelf, that's all you see. But at some point along the journey of getting this book published, I looked at my bookshelf and I realized I didn't see anyone that looked like me
Yeah.
in this category. And I went through this whole existential crisis. I'm like, will people buy a book, a self-help, personal development book that looks like me? Not
Yeah, I
only book.
remember you called me about that, and you were like, "Should I put my picture on the book?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, you should put your picture on the book." But that was probably a lot of my privilege talking because I was like, "Why not?" And it's something that I've never had to think about, and I think today on MLK Day, like what an opportunity to talk about this and bring it up.
Yeah, I think my fear was like someone would go into a bookstore or they'd be at the airport and they'd see this cover of the book that really, really talks to them. They'd read the back of the book and like, oh, this sounds good. Then they'd open it up and they'd see a picture of me and they're like, oh, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Like probably the same way people will see a movie poster. And if the movie poster has like all Black actors on it, like are people going to assume that movie can be for them? And of course, the answer is yes. So I had this existential crisis, but of course, I decided to my book, my photos all up in there. So
And what I helped vote on that photo, so it was a
thank you.
good pick. So in the spirit of and someone said my volume was low, so hopefully that fixed it. I don't know what's been going on with this mic, but in the spirit of today's prompt with Bright Pages talking about childhood story, what did you when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was a kid, of course, like most kids, I wanted to be like an athlete. I love
Yeah.
baseball. I love basketball, all those sports. But I remember like really poignantly wanting to be an engineer.
Mhm.
And I had no idea what an engineer did. All I knew was the one dude in my town that I knew that was an engineer had a nice car and a nice house. So I figured that's maybe something that I could pursue. Didn't take into consideration that math is not my jam. But I remember just thinking about being an engineer because that guy lived on the other side of town with those nice homes with the
Yeah.
garage. So maybe I should do that.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, so tell us first, what is Stop Living on Autopilot about? Why did you write it? Why do people need to read this now? Comes out tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, first, in honor of Martin Luther King Day, I just want to share a quote from MLK that really speaks to stop living on autopilot. And the quote is this: "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter." Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. That may sound like we're talking just about society, but I think we're also talking about ourselves as well, and our dreams and our aspirations. Jess, I believe that a tombstone can have 3 dates: the date that we're born, the date that we give up, and the date that we die.
Mm.
And there is a lot of time between the date that people give up and the date that people die. I found myself about 6 years ago in that place where even though everything on the internet looked good, this guy's killing it. He's figured things out. He has a great career. Internally, I was slowly wilting. I was slowly dying. Atrophy was setting in. What I found that in my life, Jess, is that I was going through the motions in many ways. I was on cruise control. All of those things that got me to where I was in my career, that kid that moved to New York City with less than $1,000 in his bank account, hoping to break into the television industry, all the things that I used to do pretty much went away in my life. And I was living on autopilot. So I knew I needed to activate some things to make sure I was living a life that I was proud of and I was fully committed to. And so I share a lot of things in this book for those men and women who feel like they are going through the motions, even though society says they've done everything they're supposed to, things they can do to become bolder and become more courageous again.
Well, it's funny that I feel like when I first read your book, because you so graciously sent me a copy early, you and I had been friends, good friends for years, and I felt like, holy crap, I didn't even know you. And I had no idea, because in my mind, from the moment I met you, so Antonio and I first met through the same speakers bureau. When I first became a speaker, we joke that he was at my first ever gig, and I asked him to hit the play button on my tripod camera so I could get a demo reel going. But you were always like the goal. I mean, you were what I was aspiring to be. I mean, writer for Forbes, for Inc. Like, you were the guy on Nickelodeon that I watched all the time. And then when I read your book and realized some of the struggle, the imposter syndrome, the mental traps that you fell into, I gotta say, it was almost a relief. I was like, okay, he's not perfect. Sometimes
Hey, his life is
thank,
messed up. Yay.
thank God he's just as messed up as I am. I
Thank
mean, is
goodness.
that bad to say?
No, it's, listen, we make a lot of assumptions about our friends, our family members. And most people, look, they tell us that, how are you doing? I'm doing great. Everything's okay. But, that's only just the surface. I think we're afraid to say certain things out loud. And I had retreated from life. Again, I gave this impression to family and friends that everything was great, but things were not great in my life. It got so bad, Jess, and I opened the book with this. I became a secret cigarette smoker.
Oh my God, the gardening gloves killed me.
Listen, cigarette smoking is something that I despise, but here I was hiding. I used to wear this bright green gardening glove, and I would hide in alleys in Los Angeles or wherever I was, and I'd smoke cigarettes. And I wore the bright green gardening glove because my wife didn't know that I smoked. So she couldn't smell it. One day, Jess, I'm smoking one of these cigarettes in a Santa Monica street alley. A homeless man
Stuff
comes up
I
to
thought
me.
you would
Right.
never say. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Things I didn't think I would ever say. This man who I perceive to be homeless comes up to me and asks, could he borrow a couple of cigarettes? And I'm like, sure, man, you can have a couple of my Camel Crush menthol cigarettes. We sitting there smoking together like smokers do. At some point, he's like, yo, man, what's up with that green glove? And I said, oh, my wife doesn't know that I smoke. I wear this so she doesn't smell the stench. Jess, he looked at me like I committed a crime, like he felt sorry for me. And he said something I will never forget. He said, hey, man, you got to figure that out. Here I am. A man
Talk
that's
about a
speaking
damn wake-up call.
a man that's speaking on stages sometimes to 5,000 people, award-winning journalist. I have the house with the white fence everybody talks about, married with kids. And here a man is telling me I have to figure this out. And you know what? He was absolutely right. That moment right there, I believe angels can show up at different moments in our lives. He
Mhm.
was an angel to me in that moment. That was a penultimate moment. Big word alert. That was a penultimate moment that shifted me in a brand new direction. That I knew things had to change. And just briefly, in the book, I talk about this whole notion of, this powerful question. There are a lot of questions in this book, more questions than answers. Because I think, like your prompts that you do with Bright Pages, I think questions are way better than answers. And the question I have, Jess, is if your life was a movie, what would the lead character start doing to turn things around?
So
What
spot on.
what a part, and I'd ask myself that
When the
question.
music picks up and all of a sudden, it's a new day and they wake up like when I read that part in your book, I got goosebumps. I'm like, if
Yeah.
I was the lead in my own movie, what would be the pivotal point that changed things for
And
me?
that's the thing that we hit. This book, by the way, I think a lot of personal development, self-help books are nice pats on the back. This
Mhm.
book is more of
It's
a kind of a it's kind of a hit
It's a
to the
look in the
esophagus.
mirror. It's a look in the mirror for
It's a
sure.
real look in the mirror. So they ask these tough questions. But I think I asked questions like, what would the lead character start doing? Because at some point I forgot just that I was the lead character, that I
Mhm.
had a say in this. I was pointing my fingers at everyone in society, complaining about X, Y, and Z, but I forgot that I had a say in this, and I had to take accountability for my life about the decisions I was making. But let's go here, the decisions I was not making. Let me remind everyone and remind myself on this Monday morning, Jess, that not making a decision is making a decision. I think
Mm.
we forget that.
Yeah, spot on. One of the things in the book that spoke to me in the moment, I wanted to pull this quote up here, was a new job, new zip code, or more money can't save you. Only you can. It's an inside job.
Ooh, can I just say
Oh,
ooh from my,
oh
that's
snap.
real, because we think if we quit our job and move to Bali, we think that if we get that car, we think if we get the house, we think that if we carry that bag, that all of a sudden things are going to miraculously be fixed. And that's not the case for whatever.
Yeah.
This is the work that we have to commit to every single day. And in society, we talk a lot about the word commit. And
Mhm.
that's cool. The word we don't talk enough about, Jess, is recommit. Because after you commit, every single day, you have to recommit to what's most important. Committing is easy,
Yeah.
but you have to recommit every single day. And that's why it's so important to have, amazing communities around us to do that.
Well, I'll admit I fell into this mentality and this trap with the Airstream trip. I did have a little bit of this mindset of, oh, this new chapter in my life, minimalism and leaving our home and getting an Airstream is literally going to be this checkbox to a lot of my problems, and your problems are in the seat right beside you in the passenger seat. They buckle up with you. And so that was one of the reasons why I started Bright Pages, is like you said, it's the questions that we have to ask ourselves sometimes, not constantly looking for the answers, but asking ourselves the questions and making it an inside job every single day.
100%. If I heard you correctly, you're about to get into some about me work, right? About the
Yeah,
people doing
yeah,
about.
that's what we're
So I
doing.
think what's great about this as well is we so much in society, we define ourselves by certain titles, right? A question I also ask in the book, which is a very powerful one, Jess, is this. Um, if you had to introduce yourself to a stranger,
Mhm.
but you couldn't reference your job or your career, how would you introduce yourself?
Hmm.
Most people struggle. If you could not reference your career or your job, how would you introduce yourself? I
Shoot.
mean, if I can't reference being a speaker, if I can't reference being a coach, if I can't reference being an author, you know what I can say all of a sudden? I'm Gigi's husband.
Mm.
I'm August's dad. I'm Harper's father. That makes me stand tall. And let me just briefly remind people, and I know you have an amazing process you're doing with people for this About Me section for themselves, is that sometimes the most sexy things, the most wild things about us that make us interesting are the things that would rarely, if ever, show up on a Google search.
Mm.
The things what makes me who I am, yeah, great. I've been an award-winning journalist. I've worked for all the major televisions in New York City. Yes, I have this book. Yes, I speak to stages sometimes of 5,000 people. But do you know I self-published 3 books before this book ever came out? I had to invest in myself. Do you know I moved to New York City with less than $1,000 in my bank account? Do you know that I hosted a retreat in Nicaragua before when I probably shouldn't have done that? Do you know I used to sell race programs at a NASCAR track near my hometown? All these different things that have shaped me who I am very rarely, if ever, show up on the internet. And those are the things that make people lean in and say, tell me more about that.
So with that, I love that, thinking about who are we when we strip away what we do, because we're not always what we do, we're who we are. And I've had to work on that relationship with myself, being constantly associating myself with, oh, the headband girl, oh, headbands of hope. And I'm like, I feel like I'm a lot more than that. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I am. Another part of the book that that resonated with me, that I think is worth discussing, is the difference between bad fear and good fear. Because there's so many self-help authors, out there talking about, like, lean into fear, like fear is your friend, fear is a good thing. But sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. So can you explain the difference for us?
Yeah, I think first, good fear. Let's rewind for a quick second. If we think about psychology for a second, we talk a lot about fear. I think what a lot of people don't realize, and psychologists will tell you, that fear and excitement are the same thing. They're pretty much the exact same emotion. Fritz Perls, the father of something called Gestalt therapy, said this quote that I love. It's going to hit people in the face right now. I hope you're buckled up. He says, fear is excitement without the breath. Fear is excitement without the breath. So think about this. If you've ever been an athlete before, you've been tight, right? And there's moments when you need to get tight. You're not breathing. That's fear. But in those moments when you're really leaning into something, you're actually breathing. So it turns into excitement. So first, I invite people during moments when they're feeling fear about something, pursuing a brand new endeavor, sharing more of their story, publish on a blog post or Instagram post. If they feel that nervous energy, ask themselves, hey, can I find a way to get excited about this as opposed to being fearful about this? I'm a firm believer that that bad fear keeps us standing still where we are. Like, we're not going to move. We're not going to move forward. But good fear actually propels us forward. It means that we're stretching ourselves. I like to talk about finding the edge. And for all of you who've ever been an athlete before, or you've ever been a performer before, or you've ever had a crush on someone before, when you get that, never, but when you get that increased heart rate, or you get those butterflies in your stomach, or your throat gets dry because you're about to speak on a stage, or your hands start shaking, that's like that. For me, that's, you're finding the edge. That's that good fear, right? That tells you that you are stretching yourself, that you are growing yourself, that you are moving forward. So I always like to ask people, like, when is the last time you're about to do something that it made your heart rate increase? When is the last time you're about to do something that was going to stretch you so much out of your comfort zone that you got butterflies or your hands started shaking? And I'm not talking about like robbing the local convenience store.
Right.
I'm talking about hitting publish. I'm talking about asking a question in the comments and sharing more about yourself. I'm talking about, having that tough conversation with a family member or a friend that you've been avoiding. I'm talking about pressing publish. So yeah, good fear and bad fear, I think, are two different things. And for me, that fear tells me that I'm on to something.
And I think that, I think one of the funny parts about being a self-help author is the things that we teach are also the things that we need to hear, because you and I have had many of these conversations. When my book was coming out, you were there for me. Hopefully I've been there for you with this book release. But, the fear that you're also feeling around, Stop Living on Autopilot coming out tomorrow, it is that publish button for you. It is that leap of faith. And it is like something that can be so scary and so vulnerable, but at the same time, like, you're moving the pieces on the chessboard. You're not standing still. So I hope that you take a moment today before to acknowledge that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've had to remind myself to get excited about this because I found myself in recent days feeling really, really tight, feeling really, really stressed, getting heartburn, like heartburn. Like I was talking to a good mutual friend of ours, Bassam Tarazi, and Bassam, and he said, "Hey man, let me ask you a question." He's perfect whenever I'm going through stuff. He says, when you were daydreaming about having a book published with a major publishing house, did you also daydream about having heartburn, being stressed out? I'm like, no, I didn't daydream about that. He's like, enjoy yourself, man. Whether that book sells one copy or a million copies, we just briefly, I think so much in life, we let our markers of success be external.
Right.
And we have to let our markers of success be internal. This book is already a success because it's happening. Just briefly, years ago, and someone asked me how do you get that blue check mark, right? That verified check mark that I have on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And I was telling this college student once, you get it. I was about to explain it to him. And I said, well, let me tell you something. You were verified the day that you were born. Like no blue check mark can verify you. I get why we want it, society, etc. But we were all verified the day that we were born. And we have to find those markers of success that are internal as opposed to external. The external stuff is just what they call the cherry on the ice cream or the cherry on the top.
I was that person too. I was like, thinking that all of a sudden I would see the world in color once I was verified. And I woke up one day and it happened and still the same color.
Still the same color.
But
still showed up.
What you were saying reminded me of Dax Shepard's podcast, Armchair Expert, and I can't remember who he was talking to, but he had directed a movie. I think it was like Chips that came out, and it did well. It wasn't this like crazy box office hit, and he said, "Could you imagine?" And this is perfect because we're talking about childhood stuff this week. Could you imagine going back in time in a time machine, seeing like young Dax and saying to him, "Hey, one day you're going to make a movie and it's going to be in theaters all over the world and all of these people are going to like watch it." Would young Dax be like, "But how much did it make?"
That's funny. That's funny. But how much did it make?
Could you imagine, zooming back to young Antonio and saying, one day you're going to have a book that's going to come out with one of the most prestigious publishers in the world. And would you ask Antonio yourself and be like, "But how many copies did it sell?" No.
How many people on Goodreads marked it as to read? Yeah.
What was our Amazon ad spend?
Yeah, she bring up such a great point. And let me just speak to the audience for a quick second. And I just want to I send text out the way Jess does to people. And yesterday, my text to my group, I just want to remind people of how far they've come. I don't know who's watching this right now, but you probably have come farther than you think you have. So we need to press pause sometimes and just acknowledge ourselves for how far we have come, right? Yes, there's work to do. There's work for me to do in so many regards. Yet, yes, I mean, I'm a dude that came from a small town in Michigan, one of those towns that people don't leave. Before I graduated from high school, I moved over 15 times in my small hometown. Between my mom and dad are like 6 total divorces. They've been divorced like 3 times. I've lived in some crazy situations, instability shelters, you name it. And so you're right. When I think about, would I be worried about sales and rankings? No, I'd be just so proud that I've got this far. So thank you for that reminder, Jess.
Absolutely. And one of the final quotes that I'll share from the book, and if anyone has any questions from Antonio, throw them in the comments, but surround yourself with people who are excited to see you win. And I loved this because you have been that person for me over the years, especially since day one. I was telling you this the other day, but when you were at my first ever paid speaking engagement, I was so nervous. I had no idea. I think I had like a Prezi PowerPoint, the one that like spins around, and it was, it was probably not my best effort. But at the end, I'm like, how'd I do? Just looking for you. And you're like, "Jess, cross it off as a win. Like you just had your first paid speaking engagement." And there's been so many times in my life where I immediately want to analyze what I just did or why I'm doing it. And I hear you in my head and say, cross it off as a win. Like it's done. And so surround yourself with people who are excited to see you win. And quickly, can you explain this in the Allies of Glory and Thieves of Ambition? And because this is one of my favorite parts of the book, and honestly who you are and what you stand for.
Well, first, thank you. You've been an amazing friend and supporter of me in so many realms as well. That was one of my early speaking gigs ever too. So I'll never forget that day. And I'm not surprised by anything that you do. And I love how you're stretching yourself and allowing yourself to continue to grow. I believe that we can spend time with thieves or allies. In the book, I call them Thieves of Ambition and Allies of Glory. Thieves are those people that don't encourage you, that don't inspire you, that don't challenge you, that don't push you, that don't hold you accountable to be the best version of yourself. Thieves are those people that when you spend time with them, they wear you out. I bet all of you have someone in your life. If you spend time with them, when you leave, you're just worn out. And thieves are those people that always, and I mean always, have some type of drama going on in their lives. Like you call them, you're like, yo, what's up? And the first thing they say is, you're not going to believe what just happened to me. And you're like, yo, why are things always happening to you and no one else? But on the flip side, we can choose to spend time with allies. Allies are those people that do encourage us, that do inspire us, that do challenge us, that do push us, that do hold us accountable to be the absolute best version of ourselves. When you spend time with allies, these people give you energy. They don't take energy away. Allies don't have drama going on in their lives. They have great things going on in their lives. And the great thing about allies is they don't even have to be your best friends, people you see every single day. They could be the folk that are in this group right now that you're commenting with, that are rooting for you, that are on your squad. A question I have for everyone right now, just to briefly think about, is this, and that is, think about the 5 people you spend the most time with, or look at the last 5. By the way, I'm pretty confident. I don't have a case for my phone.
Yeah,
think about the 5 people you spend the most time with, or look at your last 5 text messages and ask yourself this question. Do the 5 people I spend the most time with, do the 5 people I text with the most, do they make me better? Do they make me better, or do they keep me standing still where I am, settling for the status quo, settling for mediocrity, allowing me to live on autopilot, allowing me to live on cruise control when I know there is so much more inside of me to give? It's a really tough decision. It's a really tough question to ask ourselves. And not only do we have to ask ourselves, are the people around me allies, but are we being allies to others? That's why doing what you're doing right now is so critical. Because there are people in our day-to-day life that may not encourage us the way you're going to get encouraged in the comments. You're not going to get encouraged when you share your description of your about page, etc. Like, what a beautiful place to be. So if you're saying, I hear you, Antonio, but I don't have these people in my life. Yes, you do, because you're participating right now. Jess, I don't know about you. I've had some coffee, but I'm feeling fired up.
I'm feeling fired up just listening to you. Everyone who's listening, go grab his book, stoplivingonautopilot.com. It comes out tomorrow if you're listening right now during U 2.0, but if you're listening on the podcast, it is already out. So go grab it. And I know, speaking for myself, reviews were so helpful to get traction for Chasing the Bright Side. So once you read it, write a review on Amazon, on Goodreads. Anything else people should do, Antonio?
You just said it all. You just said it all. Stop living on autopilot.com, the reviews, all you just said
And
it all.
shoot him a DM. I mean, like,
Tyler,
so many people DM me and say, I know you're probably not going to read this, or I know that, you get so many of these, but I'm just going to tell you, let me tell you, I read every single one of them and they make my dang day. So once and this just goes for anything, anyone, if you read a book that you love, I know you're going to love Stop Living on Autopilot. Let the author know. This is literally why we do it. And we need those pats on the back every once in a while. But go to stoplivingonautopilot.com. I know so many of you have already, Danny just bought the audiobook. If you have enjoyed listening to this, the audiobook, I've already listened to it, is like Antonio is sitting in your living room. So, and I think when you read the audiobook, how many cups of coffee did you have?
Oh my goodness. I did the rare thing of actually, I think I did coffee and Red Bulls, which I never
Oh,
do.
Lord.
It was fun.
That's
It was
a fun
fun.
combination. Awesome. Thank you, Antonio. Anything else? Where else can they find you? Anything else you got going on that you want to share?
I'm everywhere on the internet at the Antonio Neves. One day, this guy in Brazil is going to not re-up on AntonioNeves.com, and I'll get it. Until then, I'm the Antonio Neves. Last thing I want to say, Jess, is you are an ally to me. You have been that. We just briefly talked about the audiobook. When I was reading my audiobook, I received the most amazing text message from Jess, and she sent me a Starbucks gift card. She's like, hey, it's going to be a long couple of days. Go get this specific drink with the honey or whatever tea. It's going to help you. Come on. Of all the things Jess has to do, the fact that on the day that I was reading my audiobook, she took the moment to not only give me a shout out, but actually pre-bought me a beverage. That tells you everything that you need to know about Jess. So thank you for being an amazing ally, an amazing friend. And I can't wait to see you and give you a high five in person.
Thanks, Tony. We love you. Thanks for coming on today, and go get Stop Living on Autopilot. Thanks, Tony. See you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Man, holy cow. I am, I just feel so full right now. Do you guys feel full? he is just, I've known him for years, and every time I talk to him, I just feel better than I did the moment before. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I almost forgot we were recording for a little bit and was just catching up. She pre-bought me a beverage. Yeah, I know recording Chasing the Bright Side, my audiobook, my voice started to get raspy, so I got from Starbucks, they have this thing called Citrus Defender. And it's really good for voice stuff. He's amazing, he's incredible, mind blown, inspired. Yeah, definitely go grab his book. And if you like audiobooks, definitely get the audiobook too. But okay, great. Couldn't stop smiling. On Wednesday, we're going to have Ashton as our speaker. I think she was in the comments today. And she is like an Enneagram professional. She just hit 400,000 followers on Instagram with her Enneagram account, which is crazy. So I'll be sending out the Enneagram quiz for you guys to take for Wednesday. So that way when she talks, you can know your Enneagram number. If you already know your Enneagram number, let me know. I'm a 3. You guys probably could have guessed that. But yeah, we'll be doing a fun personality test this week. But remember that this is a week of self-exploration. This whole challenge is self-exploration. No right or wrong answers. Just doing the inside work, just like Antonio said, got to do the inside work. Okay, perfect. A lot of people want to retake it. Someone found out about Bright Pages through Ashton, which is great. 7, what's good? My husband's a 7, which is so funny. Okay, so this concludes today's session. Welcome to week 2. Now that we have the new feature of view previous prompts, it's going to make it a lot easier for people who maybe missed the mark to join in late. So if you have friends, if you're really getting a lot out of this challenge and you have friends that want to join, send them the link to sign up and they can just get caught up on all the prompts that they missed. So Haley can post in the comments the landing page to this challenge. And do me a favor, if you don't mind, after this, if there's like 5 friends that you can shoot it in a text and say, yo, you got to join me on this. It's been great. That would be amazing. So because it's just going to keep going up from here. Can't wait to hear about all of your childhood stories. And thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you here same time tomorrow. Bye, everyone.